Hello and welcome to Archival, Reference, Services, and Evolution. I'd like to introduce myself as Benjamin A. Suddiff. If you're having any problem understanding me, I posted my script/summary of my video with the link. I do apologize if there are any problems understanding me. I do unfortunately have a speech impediment. Thank you and enjoy the show. So let's start off with some simple definitions. What are archives? Who are the archivists? Well, simply put, an archive is a collection of materials that represents a single historical topic made of primary sources and some secondary sources. These are gathered and stored conveniently in a collection called an archive. A fine example of collection includes that of writings of politicians or even authors. Such authors include one Jack Bass, writer of Strong, the complicated personal life and political life of Strong Thurman. Though many are more used to archives that are simply made of artifacts, books, manuscripts, and documents which are pertaining to historical figures or just people living in the distant past. Well, because these connect us to these people, and these collections allow us to go back in time and feel a connectivity to them. And this is the job of the collections and of the archivists to create this wonderful preserved piece of history for us to enjoy. Now, collections can be created in many different ways, including donation, auction, and discovery. Donors are usually people who donate their artifacts or even their own collections. Some find it beneficial to keep their personal collections at academic libraries for safekeeping, though it's not uncommon to find materials on auction blocks, as librarians themselves are competing to find rare books and other materials that are specific to their interests as well as their areas of study. Now, discovery is a little bit more complicated, as archivists don't really spend their time discovering new documents nowadays. Most of the time that falls to archaeologists and historians, though there are times that this does happen. Now, there are many types of archives, but let's just focus on those routinely found in academic libraries, their tools for references, and the advent of new technology that we live with today. Now, to understand this, let's begin where it all began. The first archivists were pretty much glorified scribes and record keepers. When civilizations began, civilizations created languages, and as they advanced, they created the wonderful written languages. Good job. Now quickly write this down, because there are barbarians on the border. As cultures advanced and civilizations rose and fell, more information was accumulated and used as vital resources. You can't remember everything. Turns out Socrates was completely wrong. The library and other early places of accumulated knowledge evolved from the temples of knowledge, where places of stockpiles of spare food were kept. And you might be asking, why there? Well, you need record keepers and records. The librarians became the new priesthood of knowledge in a sense. Kings created the places of learning, and they needed guardians and record keepers. Yea, librarians, archivists, together forever. Yet knowledge is still lost through failures to reproduce information or lost to the ages. Archives today exist in a sense to curb the loss of information, with the zeal of historians focused on safeguarding, preserving, storing, managing their precious data. I want you not to think that my view of archivists is that they only think like historians, or that record keeping and being shut-ins is all they do. No, as archivists always exist in museums, libraries, businesses, governments, and the earliest of organized religions, because people needed to keep information, and important information, for later use. Now, it would seem that I'm painting archivists and librarians in a very similar fashion, and that's true. Both are very similar. Both focus on maintenance of information and sharing of information and sharing of data. And this is key to what they do, but also key to how they evolved in more specific areas over time. As time progressed, the need of more standardized professionalism, as well as focus on co-working with academic libraries whose collective collections grew, the academic libraries needed archivists and the archivists needed libraries. By the 1970s, most archivists worked in academic libraries, as archivists were now having to focus on social history, standardizations, and truly creating a professional nature. This includes the creation of accredited archivist training, even though by the early 1990s only about 20% was certified. These changes, as well as organizations such as SAA and ALA, created better cooperation between academic libraries and archivists. And now a look back at the old reference services from the 20th century. Reference services in the 20th century were still heavily restricted by its most used media, paper. Although card catalogs and book catalogs of archives made it easier to find and use collections, it was still very localized. Restrictions based on where the data was located. We never take a real look back and wonder how lucky we have it today. I'm not trying to sound old, but the technological improvements in the 90s, early 20th century were just so amazing. I can remember as a 5-year-old trying to comprehend what a paper catalog told me. And that was back in 1997. This is not meant to show age, but in the 19 years since, progress has been made and innovation has greatly affected reference services and art. Now, there are some innovating technologies I'd like to talk about. Early advances in technology that help prepare people for the online culture was the photocopier and the fax machine. As time went on, one would see the fax machine and photocopier as being obvious tools. Nowadays, we wonder, why did they even need you? You were a poorly loved machines. So what loved the machines that actually helped archivists and librarians reduce the chance of having rare and possibly easily damaged materials from risk. Photocopying had issues, yes, with distribution and copyright laws, but fax was a new way to quickly send information. Yes, it seems to be a bit impractical to today's standards, but faxing information was the 80s and early 90s version of email, and it was amazing. Prior to the internet, computers and libraries were limited in many ways compared to how we use them today. Computers were expensive tools that were arguably did the job that was still manageable with typewriters. However, computers offered a real benefit. Even when the internet was still in its infancy, computing power at the fingers of librarians was amazing. I can actually remember, even when the early internet digitalization was still a few years off in the 90s, just because it was there didn't mean it was everything. But paper catalogs still needed maintenance, and the computer offered the best device at the time to handle that maintenance capability, as well as the coming of the most wonderful and useful tool we have today, the internet. Huzzah for the internet. Yet for archivists, this was a major opportunity, and for academic libraries, it was also a major opportunity. Why not take advantage? Paper culture may always exist, but digital was coming, and now was the time to advance. For archivists and librarians, the internet was a boon. Now information could not only be shared from collections, but new collections were easier to find, create, and manage. If the university's website was, of course, properly set up. The internet offered new means to everyone. With the internet, we got collection accessibility, reduction of appraisal time for archivists, collections being even better managed, even if they were separated or controlled by different academic libraries, and an increase of student and administrative attention. All of these made academic libraries the place for archivists to go to. Due to the advent of the internet, archivists now must meet the new demands of collections and working with patrons from beyond their local sphere. Societal diversity has since allowed and became a central theme to new collections. With the internet, finding unique collections from wider cultural views beyond the non-related sphere of interest. This is both a product of the internet and a change created from what the online connectivity does. Collections, although focused on local themes, still exist, but far-reaching interest also brings funding from and to the university. Collections of music, rare books have expanded due to the ease of finding donors and the creative online database for patrons. The need to create exhibits and demonstrate what your collections are made of. Create these programs allow archivists to preserve both oral traditions and further their cause of preserving history. One important technological leap I'd like to address is metadata. For single definition, metadata is a characterization or description of documenting the identification, purpose, location, and use of information resources. With the right software, one can manage and meaningfully use data. There's no real way for me to easily simplify what it is, except the ability to use data and materials more effectively. Metadata is a game changer for archivists, a truly perfect technology that helps with managing online databases and organize future collections, as well as structured data to be easily found by patrons. This sort of sounds like magic, and it's amazing. As mentioned before, the change of place of the archivist started not that long ago, as archivists were focused on preservation and organizational collections instead of direct reference, which the librarian has stepped in to take the place. Here, however, there will always be a need for an archivist. New collections and new materials will be found, as well as need to be looked over, deemed worth, and find space for. Academic libraries will have a need for individuals who seek and categorize vast sums of information. They will find them in people who love history, students of library science, and people who want to safeguard information, and to bring it to the attention of patrons and future people like you. Thank you for listening to this video. Sorry if there was any problems with my accent or speech impediment. I hope you have a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this video, and thank you for your time, and you have a good one. Thank you.